Hi, I'm Danny Knightmare.
I'm Gory Movie.
And we're Horror Addicts. And we saw this last week we saw Violent Night.
Oh, we're finally going to be honest with it when we see the movie.
Well, because when I did the review for Violent Night, I told them the reason why we didn't do the menu right away, or the menu, is because you were not feeling well.
Oh, so we're going to blame everything on our wives now.
It must have been something you ate.
On the menu.
So what's on the menu today?
You got the spoiler sign on already. You're going to freak him out, Dan.
Right.
I noticed there's a cheetah in the chat.
Cheetah who just drilled me full of holes and questions.
I'm the only one who gets to drill you.
So if you want to know, I had an interview just on his channel. Go check that out soon. After this, obviously, but go check it out. It was a lot of fun. He was very gracious to be a guest on his channel. We have High Tower Digital Media in the chat.
Woo, woo, woo.
What's up, Brandy and Amy? How you doing? We got Brandon from Bedlam in the chat. Nice. How you doing, man? Yes, he was asking about you, and you are feeling a bit better.
I'm better. Got cough drops.
Maybe not 100% better, but better.
Getting there.
Enough to, go out and endure the families.
Yes.
We did the rounds with all the families. Your families, my families, LOLZ's families, the cat's families, everybody's families.
The neighbors' cats that we went to go visit. We're like, hi guys, we love you.
Yeah.
We don't like our neighbors. We like our neighbors' cats, though.
I mean, they're okay. They brought us some cool treats, so we brought them a big thing of popcorn as well. But when I delivered it, I was glad that they weren't home and their cats were in the window. So I was like, oh. Maybe share this with your humans if you want. I don't care. Did you get reservations at Dorsey's? That could have been. Yeah. So anyways, yeah, we watched 2 movies last week, back to back. We had a great date night right before he got sick. We went and saw The Menu, and then we saw Violent Night, and I think we had a good time. Both movies. They both had John Leguizamo in it. As I talked about in that movie, he was like one of the people who was taking hostages, one of the criminals. In this, he's more of a hostage in this. Not somebody that's super sympathetic.
I'm glad that John Leguizamo is getting out there and being in movies again. Ever since Super Mario Brothers. Just really, really appreciate him as an Italian performer who's not Italian.
Right. In this one, he was a famous movie star who wasn't that famous.
So I'm not. I don't like to spoil things for you guys, and I'm not going to spoil things for you. But let's just say, this is a horror movie, so catch. But everyone's there for a reason. I think my favorite reason, though, is the reason John Leguizamo's there. So I won't tell you what that is, but I loved it.
It made me laugh. It was a reason, and that's all you need to know. We won't get into that, especially right now. But yeah, all these people show up on this fancy ass island. They all paid lots of money because they all are very high in the food critic business of
They're
some sort.
foodies.
They're all there for different reasons. Someone is just super rich. Him and his wife go there every year. They usually can't even remember what they order because they just do it for appearances and apparently throwing money away. Just that's how it is. They pay all this money for something they don't even give it to them about because it's just a status thing for them. There's the critics who destroyed and made businesses. They almost godlike in their abilities to hurt or help a restaurant. And
because again, nobody wants to try it for themselves. They want to hear what the fancy critic has to say.
There's the not so famous movie star who's there because he fancies himself as a foodie and he's really trying to expand and impress people, I guess. It's just something, it's a hobby in a sense for him, but he's very fake.
Played by Nicholas Hoult, who is just a chameleon actor. Everything from Warm Bodies to Mad Max to About a Boy. I mean, playing Beast. He's phenomenal, and he's such a wonderful douche in this.
Yeah, he took not the girlfriend. Everybody's confused because the girl he brought is not on the guest list. He brought a different girl, and she don't really seem to give a shit. She's she feels like the character that you kind of relate to. Because she's not one
She's
of them.
the audience replacement character. Because she's not one of them. Though I will say, after watching this movie, far more toxic than Halloween fans, Star Wars fans. It's food fans.
Apparently.
They're the most toxic. They don't even really like what they claim to like.
Those bloody donkeys.
But yeah, a lot of these people, it's talking about how, the guy, Nicholas Hoult, he can tell you all the ingredients in it, but he doesn't know what actually goes into making a great dish.
Yeah,
But, and there's all these other people who are just there because, it costs a lot of money, but they're not really paying attention. In a lot of ways, I feel like you could relate this to film because there are so many people who could, you could say me. I don't think me, but a lot of people who really know a lot about film. They know a lot about it, like who was in it, what year it came out, but they don't understand the work that went into making that happen, or they don't understand why it's important or why it's special.
They have all this information on the chefs and all of how they do it, but they don't have any experience behind the back there cooking.
I guess what I'm saying is what makes anything special, music, movies, food. It's you can research it, but there's a little bit of magic that goes into any kind of art, be it food, music, and that's something you have to really love it to understand it and to experience it.
Hey, Cal, I'm glad you joined us over here. He was checking out my interview. And John, we need another Spawn. Yeah, he was the clown in Spawn.
Violator!
He was on his knees the whole time, except for when he was the CGI Violator. But, yeah, I don't know. I kind of liked him in his clown. As weird as that worked, it somehow did. You have the couple of dude bros that are there. They're mostly there for status as well.
Stock market guys.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But and a lot of these people too, it's they have a sense of self-importance, which you see that again in all walks of life. This is just food, but you can relate this movie to so many different areas of the world, and a lot of these people act like they are better than other people, and why? Because they have money. Did they earn the money? Did they work hard for it? Most of these people didn't. Yeah. Some of these people did illegal things to get it. Some of these people are crooked. Some of these people hurt other people to get where they are. And yet that apparently makes them better. At least they think so. But this chef, who's basically kind of Gordon Ramsay, a very I'm over this shit Gordon Ramsay, he's seeing right through it. He's like, nope, these people aren't any better than anyone else. If anything, they're worse because they don't really care about people. They don't really care about food. And because food has become this thing where people pay thousands of dollars for a plate, now people who actually would love to experience that food, to experience it, not to write about it or brag about it or post pictures of it, but to experience it, those people will never get to taste it because it's way beyond their budget.
Yeah. It's played by Ralph Fiennes?
Fiennes.
I never can pronounce that name.
But I mean, that's one thing where it is different. Can you imagine if movies became like that, where, to see a movie at the cinema costs thousands of dollars? It would suck. And unfortunately with food, that's the way it is because it's become such an elitist thing.
Yeah.
And that's why Ray Fiennes is so over this shit, because he's gotten to a place in his career that these are the only people he gets to cook for, and they're the worst people in the world to cook for.
They've made him hate his once loved profession. They've kind of broken him, so this whole thing is like a dinner experience where he breaks them. He first straight out taunts them, mocks them, makes them feel like shit. It's funny because they pay for this. They're like, this is what they want. This is what some of them knew exactly what they were getting in for, that he was going to do this kind of stuff. Yet they still feel like they're, can I have a substitute? Can you make this for me? Can you get me some bread? That kind of stuff. And make an exception. And then when they say no, you know who I am. They think they're so full of shit.
And they only want it because of the status, not because they even want it. And what this movie really comes down to is there's people who serve and there's people who eat. And how there are people, and they don't just eat food, they eat everything. They eat people's lives up. They just take. Basically, there's people who give and there's people who take in this world. Yeah. And Ray Fiennes, he has separated it. The people who work in his kitchen, they are givers. They're cooks. They're people who serve. And then the people eating, they take. And that's what it comes down to. And like I said, you can apply this to everything, but the reason why this movie is so great is because it does it with such a sense of humor. So this movie could easily become like an A24, kind of maybe a preachier, dark thing, but it does it with such a sense of humor. And so you're laughing at it, but it never feels like the movie's getting really preachy or political or anything like that. It's a good time.
It has the main course has a theme, but it's very tongue-in-cheek, and I like that. I think that's fun about it. They tell you their message, but they have fun while they do it. There's a part where they can all possibly get away, and they give the men a head start to do so. This is in the trailer, so I don't think I'm spoiling too much. And when they say, all right, well, they just start running, and they leave their female companions behind. At least most of them do. They just run. There's nowhere for them to go. They're on this island. But it's just funny. It's like there's moments like that where it's just kind of hilarious, and then even when they catch him, it's the most like kind of pathetic way to catch them. Like somebody's hiding in like a chicken coop, and instead of dragging him out there all violently, they're like, "Here, try this dessert," and then come on out here when you're done, and then they just walk him back.
It's just
so
and
funny.
they're also because they want to believe that they understand something that other people don't, to the point that they're actually really stupid. Like
Yeah.
at one point he gives them basically dipping sauces for bread, but he doesn't give them the bread. He gives them a whole thing telling them how the bread was made, but there is no bread served, and everyone's like trying it, like, oh, I taste this, and being
Mhm.
all foodie and ridiculous about it. And Anya Taylor-Joy, who's totally not a foodie at all,
No.
is just like, he's insulting you. Like, why can't you people see this? Like, are you don't get what this is, you know?
She's a last minute plus one, and she doesn't fit there. And he understands that there's this chef. He's actually very perturbed by this whole thing, as it's ruined his whole menu in a sense that someone new ingredient has made its way into the performance. She's great between the witch and Last Night in Soho. She's just killing it lately. I think
She's killing it. Also Split. I mean, Anya Taylor-Joy has really become just like a new scream queen. She's awesome.
And this is no exception. I feel like she did a very good job in this.
But like I said, what I like about this movie, I mean, obviously it's about food, but I relate this a lot to. It's funny because someone asked if it's an A24. It's kind of like an anti-A24.
Yeah.
Because this movie, if you put it in film terms, it's like the foodie people are like the people who are like, well, I only like elevated horror.
Yeah.
I only like the Babadook. I don't watch Friday the 13th. That's beneath me. I don't watch I Know What You Did Last Summer or anything from the 2000s. Oh, that's so beneath me. When elevated horror is basically horror that has themes in it, that's been around for forever.
Mhm.
But now that it has a title and it has a lot of money thrown at it, we have these like elitist horror fans who are like, oh, that's the only horror for me. And when I was watching this, that's kind of what I was thinking a lot. Like a lot of these people who will snub their nose at anything, that hasn't come out recently or hasn't been labeled elevated horror. And it's like, these people really don't know. They don't know horror. They don't know movies.
Yeah, they're not good at it. It's all for status. Like you said, if movies got to that point where only rich people could see them, like he's kind of like a chef. Like if like Steven Spielberg, once at the height of his career, was only making movies, but only like in a small room where rich people paid thousands of dollars to see it, and like you couldn't download it or rent it or buy a copy of it anywhere else. And like they came and critiqued his one movie, like the experience of like a Jurassic Park 2 or whatever. It would have been like something like that.
It's kind of like, like if all movies basically were like going to the opera where you had to get really fancy and you had to go see them and stuff, or, like, how food like could cost like thousands of dollars a plate. But a lot of these things started really simply. Like Ray Fiennes' character in this started as a guy who flipped cheeseburgers.
Yeah, and he's like, there's a picture that they like see, like if people who snoop, and he's just having the time of his life flipping a cheeseburger.
And if you look at movies started as what? Plays?
Mm-hmm.
Plays back in the day, William Shakespeare, which is like the greatest playwright of all time, he was a people's playwright. So yes, the big royalty would go see it, but also the common people. They were invited to all of the shows. These are things that are meant to be shared by all of us, and yet there are so many things, and I always relate to movies just because that's my passion, but people will find these ways to use them to divide us. Something that's supposed to be about love and bringing us together and communication and community. There are people who will use it to split us apart. Like we talk about the A24 thing, or, like your Star Wars fans, or even more recently with like Halloween, where people will be like, well, using it as kind of like a way of gatekeeping or establishing some bogus sense of status that doesn't exist.
If you like this movie, you're not a real horror fan. If you hate this movie, you're not a real horror fan. That's kind of...
If you like horror, you're a real horror fan.
Exactly.
There you go. That's what it is.
Anybody tells you. If you like food, then you're a foodie in a sense. Like if you're really genuinely happy to be eating the meal you're eating, then you're actually a real foodie, like these people who claim they are.
And that's what this movie's saying. Like if you can actually sit down and enjoy a meal, like just enjoy it, just, not worry about the price tag on it, or, if it's been in this food magazine or if this critic, but if you're enjoying the food that you're experiencing, then you're a foodie.
Right.
You don't need to do anything more than that. If you like horror movies, you're a horror fan. I mean, there shouldn't have to be these like status rules. And this movie beautifully deconstructs that and tears it apart with such humor and relish, and it really is no holds barred.
Oh yeah.
Really just does not hold back. As far as we haven't talked a lot about the horror aspects, I will say it's horror light.
Yeah.
It's mostly, this is very tense. It's
Mhm.
very thrilling. It does a wonderful job with like sound design, because this guy, he goes like this all the time.
Mhm.
You're in the cinema. If you're watching this in the cinema, like every time I'm like,
Snaps you to attention.
it snaps you to attention. So it's
Mhm.
just really good job with the sound design of keeping that tension going, finding all these different ways to keep that tension going. And you just wonder, and I don't want to spoil what's going to happen, but the whole time I'm like, what's going to happen here? Is he going to eat them? Is he going to serve them up? Is he going to humiliate them? Is he going to kill them? Are they going to hunt them? And it's one of those rare movies, at least for me anyway, where as I was watching it, I really had no idea where this was going.
Yeah, I couldn't. I had a few ideas, but none of them worked together. I'm like, it could go this way, it could go that way. Like, will that happen? Quick shout out to Fairpoint Station, Lokar Monster, and Tatum. Thank you all for joining in the chat. I know some of you have been there a little bit. I just hadn't had a chance to say hi. But yeah, I love that.
I want
didn't
to
know where it was
clarify
going.
something, just because sometimes we say these things in streams and they can come off wrong. When I'm saying this stuff about A24, I'm not shitting on A24. I love A24 movies. I also love The Suckling and Critters. I
Mhm.
love all kinds of great
yeah.
storytelling. It's just there are some people who will say like, well, this is the only good horror. And
Yeah.
that's when it gets upsetting. Like, when people are like in this movie who are like, well, I only eat at these kind of restaurants. It's the only thing good enough for me. And it's like, there are some amazing roadside diners you're missing out on, honey. And if A24 is the only horror for you, if you're like Tara in Scream 5 and it's the Babadook or nothing, then you're missing out. There's a lot of great movies out there.
Yeah, you have a small horror palette.
Yeah.
It's good
You're
to mix it
getting-
up. You should have a taste of everything.
It's like those variety cheesecake cake platters, and you've only tried one.
It was super expensive, but you only ate one and threw the rest away. All right, whatever. But yeah, like these people, it's all about status, and they're not even that excited to be there. He messes with them, and I love that. Like, there is deaths, but it's more about the reactions, or sometimes their lack of reactions to these deaths, that are like more the point and the focus than the actual death or you saw.
Essentially what he's trying to do is, this is a man who is so over it. He feels beaten down. He's worked so hard to get where he is. He is at the top of the cooking world. He is like Gordon Ramsay, essentially. There's nowhere else to go, and he's not happy. It also kind of reminds me, of that book they're making a movie of, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Like, we're told, keep fighting, keep trying to get to the top. You know what? You can get to the absolute tippy top. You can be the richest man in the world. You can have the biggest YouTube channel in the world. You can have the most expensive car in the world. It's not going to make you happy.
No,
it's not. We're told that these are things we need to have, and it's great to have ambitions, but achieving that ambition isn't going to make you happy.
Especially if you were just making yourself unhappy to please others
Yes,
to get that.
when you sacrificed family and friends and enjoying life just to get there. And he's gotten there, and he's broken. He has nothing to show for his life. He doesn't like who he is. He doesn't like what he does. And he's basically going to take... It kind of reminds me of The Crow. You know how he says she went through hours and hours of suffering, and you're going to get all that all at once. He's taking a lifetime of just being beaten down by these people who just eat his food and tear it apart and don't appreciate the heart that went into it.
They do it for
and
their
he's
own
doing
gain.
it in one night. He's like, I'm going to break you in one night. You've taken years to break me. I'm breaking you in one night.
Yeah, they're trapped on this little island with him, and they have several meals. You don't really get to see too much of what they're doing in between them, but he starts off light by mocking them, and they're like, oh, isn't that cheeky? And they're like, but they think it's part of the show, and still very critiquing everything because they think they're better than it, even though they're there because they have to prove they're better than everybody, but they still think they're better than it. It's like, why are you there if you think you're better than this? And he knows that, yeah, this is the point. He's worked so hard, and these are the people that he's been making food for because they're the only people that he can at that far at the top, and he hates them. And he knows that they, in a sense, hate him too because they just use him. They suck from him like leeches. And he's tired. He's done. This is his swan song, and he's taking everybody out with him. Like, that's the plan anyways. I'm not going to tell you exactly what happens, but damn, that's what he wants. Like, he wants everybody to basically atone. for their nastiness and bring it all to an end. This is because he can't top himself at this point. There's no topping because they all want the performance from him, like Gordon Ramsay. You know, we watched if you watched Hell's Kitchen, you want that donkeys swearing, you want the show to go with the food. Like that's all part of him too. And he knows that he can't. He's done some cheeky stuff that's led to this. They talk a little bit about what he's done recently, but yeah, there's
The other thing I like about this movie, though, is nobody's safe. So, like, this movie is the way I feel like we're painting it sounds almost kind of like, you know, he's sitting them down. Even he's not exempt from it. And really, like, that's where this audience replacement character, Anya Taylor-Joy, you know, comes in because she sees it for what it is. He's like, Ray Fiennes is like, it's us, the servers, versus them, the eaters, you know? And she's like, no, because if you really believe that, if you practice what you preach, she essentially, you know, breaks it down and just like, you could go flip burgers, but you don't want to do that. You don't want to give up that status. You don't want to give up, you know, you want to, you know, kind of sit on your throne here and preach to these guys and blame them, but you're part of the problem too.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, even his givers, the staff, they know that they're in a sense guilty. They talk about their sins as part of the show, like the ones they've done to each other, but the ones mostly for allowing these takers to take from them their whole life. They're just as guilty in the whole shenanigans.
Well, and the other thing too is like every meal or every every part of the menu comes with this big speech, and it's like, dude, it's just food.
Right.
You want them to just eat it and just enjoy it? Let them just eat it and just enjoy it. When I go order a freaking Arby's, which I'm getting after this, I'm really craving some Arby's.
They have the meats.
But when I get an Arby's, I would be annoyed as hell if they sat down and they were like, this Arby's that you're eating came from the, you know, wheat grown in Wisconsin or some shit. I would be like, nah, dog, just let me eat my Arby's.
Right.
You know? And so, yeah, he's part of the problem. They're all part of the problem. You know, it's this kind of vicious cycle.
He brings up one of his star chefs, but he humiliates him because it's part of the show. And they just basically admit that they can't have what they're looking for either because they're too busy chasing that high, I guess, or that dream that will never make them happy to begin with. It's all part of the show, and they admit it. They're just as guilty. It's just they are willing to admit it. That's what separates his staff and him from the people out there. He's trying to get the people out there to admit it too.
But yeah, especially if you're not a food person, because I feel like this is such an elite little thing, and maybe there is a big food community out there. I just don't know these people. But like when it comes to movies and stuff, like, you know, apply this to whatever it is you like. You know, if it's wrestling, like apply it to that. You know, we have like one company that rules everything, but you know, check out some of the indie stuff. Like
thankfully we don't anymore. AEW is doing really well, but yeah, for the longest time there, for at least over almost 2 generations, like 20 years almost, WWE was unchecked as the top only place to be.
But that's something I preach about on my channel a lot. Like, don't just watch the things that whatever critic tells you is the best movie of the year. You know, your favorite movie of the year, if you give them a chance, might be that straight to video release that nobody gave it the time of day to.
And that goes for us too. Like, you don't have to ever agree with us just for the fact that we feel that way about a movie. If we like it or hate it, you don't have to like it or hate it too. Just tell us why. I mean, be civil in the chat towards each other. That's all we really ask. Speaking of that, Fairpoint Station asks, did this movie make you hungry? It did, actually. It made me hungry.
I mean, that's the thing, because I this is how I feel about really expensive restaurants. Like, some of it was just like, ugh. I think it would make me hungry in the wrong way. Like, it made me hungry for them, because they paid all this money to eat, and at one point, there's condiments on their plate. Like, I would be pissed.
There's
I
a
would
point
be like,
where there's a giant,
I'm hungry.
There's a giant unedible rock on their plate. There's a little bit of edible stuff with it,
yeah.
but that's it.
If I was them, I'd be like, I need to eat. At some point tonight, I need to eat. I paid thousands of dollars, you know. I wish I would have just gone to the KFC buffet.
It's not really the meal you think. It's unplanned. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but there is one thing he cooks at the very end. Yes, it made me so hungry.
Okay, yes, that thing.
It's like the odd meal out, and you'll have to watch it yourself.
Patrick wants to know who's the cook between us.
Well, it depends, but usually you. I'd say you have the more awesome, like, fish and chips and bangers and stuff. You have some great meals, but I can cook too.
I like to try different recipes and stuff. We tend to eat a lot of the same stuff all the time, so sometimes I'll be like, well, you know what I like to do? I like to look at the ingredients in my fridge and be like, look up a recipe that I can make with those. So it's kind of an experiment.
I give it mostly to Gory, but, you know, I pull my own weight in the kitchen.
Yeah, you do. He makes some mean nachos. Mean burger, too.
And ribs and pork chops and stuff. I cook. don't get as creative usually.
We got LOLZ the Scooby-Doo cookbook though, so I think we can retire.
Yeah, he can start cooking some Scooby-Doo meals for us.
Scooby-Doo meals.
Giant sandwiches.
I'm working on unhinging my jaw like a snake so I can eat them.
Get that tune force.
But yeah, this movie is really funny. I laughed throughout. It's satire, so I will make that very, very clear. Satire is different than parody. It's different than slapstick. So this isn't, for a lot of people, it's not going to be laugh out loud funny. I was laughing out loud. But a lot of people don't like satire. If you're a person who doesn't like satire, don't watch this movie. This is not a typical just like comedy. It's a satire. So I did think it was really funny, but it's not going to be funny the way a Farrelly Brothers movie is funny, the way a Jim Carrey movie is funny. It's satirical.
Yeah. We need a cooking video. We don't have actually a cooking video, but we have reviewed some horror-related food on Horror Addicts. You have to go way back to mostly find those, but we have. A good cooking horror channel, though, is Casey's Homicidal Homemaker. If you're not subscribed to her, there's some great horror cooking shit right there.
Absolutely. Do you prefer manwich or pulled pork sandwich? I really love me a good, I know manwich, but any kind of sloppy joes is freaking good. I like pulled pork, though, too, so
I'm going to
go. Both.
I like both.
I'm going to say both.
I lean, I guess, right now, I would want a pulled pork, but sometimes I crave a good sloppy joe, and you're scaring us, lady.
Fair point station, there are no fart jokes. And like I said, like,
no fart jokes.
even that, I mean, that's why I like this movie, because I love a movie with layers. You can keep, even with comedy, satire is the hoity-toity foodie of comedy. Mm-hmm. Right? Fart jokes, I guess, are like the bottom, but I love all kinds of comedy, too. But I think there's some really good messages in here. I think there's some really good jokes in here. And there's a lot of tension. And at the end of it, I would say there's some pretty good horrific moments.
It's kind of like, what would you do in that situation? And a lot of these people are sheep,
Something else I would say, one of the complaints I read a lot, I love Letterboxd, by the way, if you guys are on there, if we're not already following each other, please do. I'm so nosy about what other people are watching. I don't care what you're eating, but I want to know what you've been watching this week. So let me stalk you on Letterboxd. I would love that. Yeah. But
and Danny Knightmare on there.
In this, hold on, don't want to lose my train of thought. Go ahead and say what you're saying.
Well, I was just gonna say, because we don't have time to literally review everything, live review or regular reviews.
And I was gonna say, so before I forget, so on Letterboxd, I was reading a lot of people's reviews of this movie, and one of the things people complained about the most was a lot of people complained about the character reactions, and I know what they're talking about. Towards the end there, I think there's I'm not gonna spoil it for you, so I'm not gonna put the spoiler sign. But towards the end there, I think, especially if you're not part of this kind of like elite world, of high stakes and all this stuff, rich people world, unless you're super fucking rich, I think it might be hard to understand some of these characters. But these characters are empty. Mm-hmm. All they have is their status. All they have is having other people think that they're elite. Mm-hmm. If you take that away or you threaten to take that away, it will break them. And that's what he's trying to do. And I will say he succeeds by the end of it. I don't think that's a spoiler because that this movie's trying to do that. He wants to break them.
And they're all different in different ways, but they are paper tigers. And he wants to break them the way they've broken him out the years. And he's pretty successful at doing it.
I won't say everyone gets broken.
Yeah.
But there are some characters where you might be like, wow, why aren't they trying to kill him? Why aren't they trying to run away? Think about these characters and what's actually important to them. Is it their lives or is it their status?
And there are people who try to get violent and run away as well. So you'll have to see how that works out for them. But yeah, it's I liked it. I had a great time watching this.
I do think a lot of people though, like, especially for us, like middle class kids, you especially in a horror movie, you think, God, your life is the only thing that's important. But for some people, it isn't. And
there's been movies where I felt like some weak characters have kind of like, I couldn't relate with them. And I don't really relate with these characters too, but I understand them better. Like Funny Games, I felt like sometimes the dad and the mom just took it too easily.
Yeah.
But without really a good reason why they did, other than that's just what the movie kind of said. Where in this, I understand why these people are acting kind of the way they are. Like, because I really thought about it. It's not how I would act, but I also know that I'm a lot different than these characters. They made it very clear in the movie that I would be very different than these
Also,
characters.
check out that poster. I love that poster so much because I think when you look at it, you're gonna look at the characters who are looking at you because it's just our human nature to do that. You see Ontario Joy, but there's so much hidden in this poster. This poster's kind of genius, even though it's simple. Like you have Nicholas Holt stealing food from her plate.
Yeah.
You've got a guy in the background who's being held back. You don't really see what's happening. That is part of the movie. You know, like all these things with the characters in the background, it's really revealing and it's really clever.
Yeah. It'll make more sense if after you see it. So
I didn't quite put together everything that was happening in that poster until after I saw it. But after you watch the movie, take a look at that poster again.
exactly. I think it's pretty clear that we both would say see it, right?
I 100% would say see it. I don't think you need to see this in the theater, though I will say the sound design, I mean, it's gorgeous. The sound design will definitely make you jump. I think having a surround sound system is great for this. If not, crank it up. Crank it up because they're doing a lot of stuff with sound here that is going to help with that tension and help get you, the full experience of this movie. But you 100% can watch this at home. I don't think you need to go rushing out to the cinema to see it.
I mean, if you get a chance, cool. We had a great time, so I wouldn't disrecommend it. But I think as long as what I would recommend is that you watch it either as a date, a couple where you're both focused on it, or by yourself. This isn't a good like beer and pizza movie with friends. You have to pay attention to really fully appreciate it. I think you gotta devote some time to watching it with close detail.
Go in blind.
Like,
It's one of those movies already I think is kind of divisive. And one thing that really frustrates me that I see with people with the movies is people will, like you guys are watching this, hopefully you've seen the movie or I don't, hopefully you just don't listen to everything I say because you shouldn't because I'm just a dumb person on the internet. But a lot of people will watch a couple reviews and they've adopted their opinion on it, with anything, not just this movie, but don't ever have your mind made up before you see the movie because you can really miss out on something here. So, we've told you guys it's not like a laugh out loud comedy. It's a satire, but let yourself give it a chance.
Yeah.
We've told you guys what it is. It's kind of, I guess, a slow burn satire in that respect, but really give it a chance before you talk about it with your friends because it's one of those movies where I could see a lot of people could be on the fence about it. It's one of those movies I think if I saw it with the wrong crowd, essentially, I might not have enjoyed it as much. Yeah, exactly. But with the right company, I think you can really enjoy this. And if you don't have that kind of company to go see a movie with, see it by yourself. Because it is a movie that deserves your time. And I think a lot more people would enjoy it more if they really gave it a chance. I think a lot of the negative reviews I'm seeing is people who already made up their mind or really didn't give it a chance. They went in there maybe expecting something that this movie really isn't. It's not a bloody, gory horror movie. It's not a slapsticky, comedy either. It's something that really requires your attention.
And I wouldn't say it's like a whodunit, but that's the type of focus you should give it.
Yeah,
because it's going to give you clues throughout the movie of where, and even then, like I said, we couldn't quite figure out exactly where it was going to go. But it does give you hints that make a lot more sense later. Like, okay.
This is mystery vibes. So that vibe you get when you watch a whodunit or a mystery movie, how you don't sit there and talk to your friends. You pay attention, because you want to get all the clues.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you will laugh out loud at certain parts of it. You might jump at a few parts, but you're really giving your attention. Give it the attention you would a mystery movie. And I think you're going to get the most that, you can from this. And if you still don't like it, fair enough.
You gave it a shot.
That's cool.
I'm on the borderline of possibly wanting to own this as soon as it comes out. I think it's worthy. I'm going to definitely just say see it for now, but it's almost own it for me.
I don't know if I would own it, but it's definitely one I've thought about a lot since I saw it because it does such a good job with the satire that I find so many things to apply it to. And I feel like it's really, just giving me a lot to think about, which I think is really awesome with any movie that like lives in your brain like that is awesome. So
yeah.
Maybe I won't need to necessarily own it again, but I would like to see it again. And I know this is one I'm going to continue to think about for a while just because it's very unique in that respect.
Yeah, it's one, like I said, I'm not sure 100% where I'm definitely saying see it. It's definitely there for me. And own it, I might, because I think I would actually like to show this to a few people, LOLZ included. I think LOLZ might enjoy this movie.
As far as power plays go, like in this movie, like the tension, another movie I would compare it to would be, it's not a great comparison because I don't think a lot of people have seen it, though. I really love the movie Suicide Kings with Christopher Walken.
Okay.
Any movies like that where there's kind of like a battle of wills, because there's a lot going on between the characters in here.
And as we were talking about elevated horror earlier, I don't like that term in a sense, but I will say, because this is maybe the highbrow, but it pairs well as a main
Pairs well?
Yeah, it would go great with Gravy, which I would say is the lowbrow version. That's more the lowbrow version, but I like both movies. Kind of like putting The Wrestler and Black Swan together.
But I really like this movie. I really like how, like I said, with the exception of maybe one character, all these characters are complicit, so it's never preachy because the movie even recognizes that all these characters are part of the problem, which I like. And I always like to challenge myself. You know, I'm somebody who really I love truly all horror, from whatever people are saying is the best movie of the year to whatever, I watched on Tubi this week. So I just love movies so much. And I try to be somebody who's a champion for like that cheesy B movie that nobody gives a chance. And this movie has a lot of those themes that I really believe in. So I think that's why this one, meant a lot to me, because I was able to apply it to things I really care about.
Exactly. I don't understand the foodie universe, but I still understood this movie. And that's why I think it applies, like you said, to lots of things. You can really take that.
As horror fans, it's not even just horror. So many areas in my life, I feel like, being a goth kid in high school, you're less than. You're not as good as the other kids because you're the weird goth girl. I played sports, but I didn't play volleyball or anything that and I didn't play anything that goes to the Olympics. I played roller derby, which is considered like about as classy as NASCAR. I love movies, but I haven't seen some of the ones people say are the greatest movies of all time. Still haven't seen that Avatar.
Yeah.
But I love horror movies, and horror movies are something that we're constantly are told as horror fans that what we like is less than, that it's not as classy or as important as movies that people, I love people compare it to movies like Shawshank Redemption. You're like, oh, the one by Stephen King, the horror writer.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, I think
he wrote Cujo,
because we're a lot of those same kind of people who like, just liking horror. That's already a whole genre of film in itself that is treated as less than. And this movie's kind of about that, like how it doesn't matter how people rank the status of something. It's all about what actually moves you and actually is important to you.
I'm going to add on that with a pin real quick, but I want to thank Tatum Rose for the $2. That's awesome. Yeah. She says, miss y'all. So glad you're feeling better, Gory.
Getting there.
Yeah. She's getting better. Like, not completely over it, but better. I thankfully managed to avoid this wave that hit our house, because we got hit wave after wave after wave. But this one I kind of managed to get by.
Hey, Jack's here.
Count Jacula. The Avatar is overrated. I don't know. I can't say I hate it because I've never seen it.
And I'll be fair to that too. I keep telling you guys, don't judge a movie before you've seen it. Back in the day, someone told me Dances with Wolves meets Ferngully and there's some hair sex, and I was like, yeah, no. I'm just not going to see it. But you know what? I need to get over my own biases, my own prejudices, and give it a chance.
This one that's coming out right now looks more like it's Waterworld with hair sex, but I don't know. I haven't seen it. I want to go off of what Brandon just said, though. He's like, I like Avatar, but it's more of an experience. That is kind of what, like, all these people are talking about this chef. They're like, we want to pay for his food, but it's not about the food. It's about the experience and the status and the claim that we experienced his menu. That's more important to them than the actual food. But I would say, like I said, I can't crap on the Avatar. I've never seen it.
I was gonna say there's not hair sex, but then he says accurate. So yeah, I'll be honest, I'm a little skeeved out, but I'm gonna give it a chance. I'm gonna give it a real chance.
If you guys, for whatever reason,
when I have 5 hours available to me,
if you're for whatever reason unfamiliar with Count Jacula and his show, go check it out and subscribe.
Oh, Jack's great, and a great streamer too.
And he told me that he was planning on maybe kind of bringing back like his old movie reviews that he used to do. I loved those so much.
Jack was one of the first people I really started watching on YouTube. So.
Yeah, he was great.
I love the streams, but I do miss the videos. But I also understand, dude, I understand how much work they are, and I understand why you gave it a break.
The content I put on this channel now compared to what I used to put on, way different, and it's still changing, evolving all the time. So, but yeah, Jack, he's a great guy. And you can listen to him talk for a while. He always
what I would love? Like, if you could do retro remakes, like you could actually go back in time and get people who have passed on. This movie, but with Vincent Price as the chef.
Oh, nice.
There will be food and drink.
I
and
also,
ghosts.
I really kind of got like a Robin Williams vibe from Ralph Fiennes. I did,
I
like,
see
just
that. I
in
see
his
that.
delivery and in his eyes too. His eyes were like, because he looked more intimidating than Robin Williams, but he had the like watery kind of eyes that really showed the emotion that was hidden behind the calm status of being intimidating. And I love how they were talking about it because, like, I feel like usually they're the chefs, they're the givers, they're the sheep, and they're eaten by these wolves all the time. But when they turn the tables on them, they find out that the wolves are just sheep too. They are paper tigers in a sense, and I love that about this.
Yeah.
It's a cool thing to check out about it. All right, well, that's kind of my opinions on it. You got anything more you really want to say about it? Other than go see it, like check it out. I don't know when it's gonna be on physical media. Someone answer that. Thankfully things don't take long these days. It'll be streaming or on Blu-ray soon. I'm sure.
If you're in a dinner and a movie, eat afterwards.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I think we're gonna go get ourselves some cheeseburgers.
I'm gonna get some Arby's.
Arby's is where the meat
They have
is.
the meats, guys. They have the meats.
So thank you all for watching. Let me know what other movies that have come out recently that you'd like me to do for next week's live stream. I will have to check
you're
it out.
gonna start making this Tuesday live movie review like a regular thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and do Tuesdays, and every once in a while maybe throw in a Monday, but we'll see.
Living on the edge.
Yeah. These tend to be like my nights that I can do this. So.
I tend to stream on Sundays. This week though, Friday, I'll be talking about Gremlins 2 with you.
Yeah, so that'll be on Friday. Check that out. If you have time right now, if not, do it soon. But go check out Half Cheetah Will Review. I did a cool little interview with him. He asked me a bunch of questions from filmmaking to horror movies, music, wrestling, and Britney Spears got into the topic there. So.
And Cheetah, next 8 questions. Please do 8 questions with your cheetah. That's one I want to see.
Yeah, even if you have to fill in the blanks there on what the answers are. So thank you all for watching. And like I said, go see it. And now I'm hungry, so...
Cut!